Welcome to Crystal Uncorked. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, and I'm all about keeping business real, raw, and refreshingly honest. From the peaks to the valleys, we'll explore my journey and the inspiring stories of remarkable women entrepreneurs just like you. Together, we'll uncover the heart of business, embrace vulnerability, and evolve, celebrating the power and success of women in business. I am thrilled and honored you're here. Cheers! Welcome to Crystal Uncorked. I'm thrilled you're here. Today we're talking about a topic that I absolutely love, which is money, honey. I was at a women's networking event, breakfast, last week, and the topic was all about investing and financial planning. And there was about 70 women in the room. And we had a speaker who does financial planning. She had about a 20-minute presentation. And then we would go around the room. And I thought this was something really cool. I haven't seen this at networking events before. There was a little card that were questions that we had to answer that related to the topic. And then one person at the table had to summarize all of our answers and then get up and speak so we could hear how all the other tables, the summary of their conversation based on the topic. I loved it. I thought that was so brilliant. I'd love to integrate some of that into some stuff I do and want to do in the future. So some of the questions were, who manages your finances in your household today? Do you know what you're invested in? There was something like that, like how aware are you? Or like how in tuned are you with your finances? And have you had a big life situation happen that set you backwards? And I feel like there was a fourth question that I can't really remember. And so something I kind of loved about this too is I feel like you don't have a lot of people talking about money and finances and their relationship to it. It's almost like taboo, or people don't want to talk about it, or it's like hush hush, or we're nervous, or we're afraid, or will we be judged, or am I far behind, or is she doing better than me, or like all the thoughts, right? I mean, money can be stressful and heavy. So I loved that we were just tackling it and talking about it, and it felt like a very safe space to do that. And there was two things that I found so incredibly shocking at this event. The first is the speaker opened up with this YouTube video, and it was a video that was AI generated showing wealthy people. And so I don't know what the exact prompt was, but basically there was a prompt to create a video of faces of wealth, and everybody was male. There was no female in this video, which totally got me fired up. I'm like, all right, ladies, what are we going to do about this? It's just such a stereotype that men make more. They do make more. It's not even a stereotype. It's just a fact. And I also feel like men will talk more about money and investments, where women, it's more like hush, hush and quiet. So the other thing that shocked me was as we went around our table, majority of my table was not invested in anything. Majority, not invested in anything. They had families. One person was probably in her late 20s, early 30s. A couple others were in their 50s, one 60s, and one probably 70s. And the ladies that were a little bit older, the men were in charge. They didn't want to be in charge, and they didn't really know what was going on. And so then, because we do the summaries and everybody stands up and speaks for the table, majority of people that stood up, I mean, pretty much every table was like, we're not invested, or we're afraid to invest. We don't know what to invest in, or my husband takes care of it. There was not a summary that was like, oh, I'm crushing it. I'm totally, invested. I'm set up for success. I'm diverse in my finances. Like, there was none of that I heard. Now, maybe there was a couple ladies who mentioned it at their tables I wasn't sitting at, but the summaries did not show that. And it really got me fired up. So as we went around, I found it kind of funny because, we went around and two people spoke before me, and then it was my turn. And I'm like, they both were, I managed the finances. The women managed the finances. Both of their husbands didn't want anything to do with it. and were not invested at all. And it was fear. It was fear. I don't know. I don't want to lose my money. I think the biggest thing was fear of losing money, and then having a hard time investing it now because you want to spend it now. And so not being able to kind of let go of it now and set yourself up for the future. So that was kind of the trending thing. And then it was my turn, and I'm like, I love money. That was the first thing I said. I think I am such a believer that we have to have a relationship with money, and we can have a bad relationship or a good relationship. And I have always been very expansive in my thinking around money. I feel like money is a tool. Money is fun. Making money can be fun. I mean, I just have a different mindset maybe than some. It's a very different mindset than my family. I will tell you that. Trust me, I did not get this mindset from my family. I think I got it by being the opposite of my family. I think that they very much think that they've got to work to make money. They'll never be rich. They can never have wealth. And the only way that they'll ever have a little bit more than enough is winning the lottery. And there can sometimes be, victim mentality almost, or depression around it. And I feel like that's very common. That is a very common thing in our society. I am not that way. I am very expansive and just have been, and I'm very grateful for that. In fact, when I was in high school, I took an economics class that I loved, and we got like fake money, $100,000 to invest in this platform that allowed us to invest our fake money into the stock market. And we would I found it so fun because you could buy stocks and bonds, and then I would watch the money channel, like whatever CNBC has all the tickers and everything going at the bottom. And I would watch that to see how my portfolio was performing. And I crushed it in those couple of weeks when we had that going on. So I've just always naturally liked investing. And I thought maybe I'd be a financial planner. And I just don't have any interest really in doing that now. But I love talking about money, and I love having money. And I really feel like there's an energy to money. There's a mindset to money, like how we put our energy into it. And if it is more positive or negative, more expansive or not. And so I kind of just want to talk about some of those things on this podcast today, kind of about mindset and energy, as well as just some of the things that I'm personally invested in. I am not a financial advisor. I've had really good financial advisors along the way, as well as a really good accountant. And so I'm going to just share some of the things that I have, that I've done to help anybody who maybe is money curious, investing curious. And you can use this maybe to create some questions with a financial planner or an accountant. And hopefully some people that were some of the ladies in this networking group see this video too. So the first thing, I want to talk about the mindset aspect, and then we'll get into like all the stuff that I'm invested in. But the mindset side of this, like I said, I feel like we have to have a relationship. And I think a lot of people don't have a good relationship with it. And this can be for a lot of different reasons. The stories we tell ourselves, how we grew up, how our parents are with money. There can be trauma. There can be big life events that have happened that have set you back that you weren't planned for, situational things that are out of your control. There's a lot of different things that can happen. But I want to share a story for me personally. I've always kind of had this like abundant mindset and just feel like my success is inevitable. My wealth is inevitable. And I'm willing to definitely work for that. But I don't think that the more you work, the more you make money. I think smarter, not harder. And I just have had that mindset. But it was probably 6-7 years ago that I was maybe 8. I was struggling. I found myself in a very negative money mindset. I was feeling very stressed about paying bills. I had my own business. At this point, I was 2 or 3 years into my business, and I had a couple of employees. I mean, I was small. And I think even at that point, they were just contractors, but I definitely felt that that pressure that I need to pay them, and I have expenses, and just, I felt pressure, and I felt very tight. I want gripping onto my money. I didn't want to let go of it, and any bill would stress me out. And so I started working with a nutritional therapist around this same time. I originally went to her for acne, and I still work with her to this day on so many different issues. The body is incredible. But she'd always like ask me like, what else is going on? And I just felt like I could talk about some of the emotional things that were happening. And I just said, I just feel like I'm in a really bad place. Like I'm very negative. I don't feel abundant. I don't feel expansive. I feel so stressed about money. It feels so heavy. And she's like, okay, well, let's work on this. So she asked me some questions, and then she came around the table and we sat on these chairs facing each other. And she had me hold out my hands like I was holding a big, like what I visualized it being like this big ceramic, like a clay pot, this big pot. And what we did is we went through, I'm going to get a little hippie on you here, okay? We went through our chakras, starting at the root chakra, going up to the crown chakra. There's 7 different chakras, and I'm not an expert. I believe that they are energy sources and they can be blocked. And when they are blocked, it can block us from other things in our lives, whatever those chakras control, it can block us. And so we want those to be clear and we want those to be open. And there's a lot of things you can do to do that. So that's what we were kind of trying to find. She was feeling like I maybe had a blocked chakra. And so we just started with the root chakra, and I closed my eyes and I'm holding this pot, and I had to visualize kind of this pot like full of money. And she was like, repeat after me. And she just did the same thing. Her eyes were closed. She held the pot too. And she said, we started at the root. So she's like, fill it in your root chakra. She said, repeat after me. I have $50,000 in my bank account. So I'd say I have $50,000 in my bank account. I have $60,000 in my bank account. I'd say I have $60,000 in my bank account. And we would work our way up, and usually we'd go to about 100. Well, what she was hearing is if I was kind of weak. Did I say it quieter? Did I stutter? Was there a different point like to get to hear? And then she also was feeling into my energy. And I'm very much a believer of this. You might not be, but I very much am. And so if I was stuck, so at the root, I think I got to 60, and I said, I have 60,000 in my bank account. She goes, I have 70. And I said, I have 70,000 in my bank account. She's like, okay, let's try again. I have 50,000. So then we go back. I have 60. I have 70. Couldn't get past that 70. So then she's like, I have $70,000 in my bank account. I have 70,000. I'd repeat back. She'd say it again. I have 70,000. I would repeat back. And we might do the same number multiple times until I got that confident. I saw it. I felt it in my pot. And then she's like, okay, I have $80,000 in my bank account. And we go up until we were at that 100 mark plus. I say plus because the crown chakra, I was like shooting up to 120 really fast. It was so easy for me. That one, the crown chakra was wide open. So we were clearing some energy. We get to my throat chakra, and she says, I have $50,000 in my bank account. And I say, I have $50,000 in my bank account, but it felt hard for me to say. I could feel that one. I knew she caught it. She's like, okay, I have 50,000. Made me say it again. And she's like, okay, what are you feeling right now? And, I forget exactly what it was that I said, but the thought that I was having is I said, I'm thinking about my mom. Or maybe she's just like, what are you thinking about? I said, I'm thinking about my mom. And she said, okay. And I was not expecting that. My mom just jumped into my head out of nowhere. And I'm like, why is this even coming up? And she's like, okay, close your eyes, have the pot, repeat after me. Oh, I can just feel this like I was there yesterday. She said, repeat after me. My mom is not my responsibility. And I couldn't speak the word, like I couldn't say anything. I completely was trapped. My voice, the words could not come out. And she's like, take your time. And then I would try to be like, and then I just bursted into tears. I mean, holy guacamole. I was holding on to some stuff there that I had no idea. So I cry. She just let me cry, give me that space. She's like, okay, my mom is not my responsibility. And so I would say it very hard to say. She made me say it like 5 or 6 times until I kind of got there. She's like, okay, I have $50,000 in my bank account. So I have $50,000, and boom, it was clear. I could do it. And then the rest, the eye, whatever this is, throat, then you've got like the eye chakra. That's not right, but your third eye, and then the crown was like, whew, we were good. I left that session floating. So much energy had moved out of me. I was in shock a little bit. These feelings came up for me. I'm not kidding. The very next day, I closed out that day with over $100,000 in my bank account. And I hadn't hit that milestone. I was feeling so stuck. And man, I felt expansive. Like it was all that negative energy I had towards it. Those feelings I had were gone. I needed to clear out that. I needed to clear that out. And obviously I was feeling, I've gone through, I've had to work on this. I do make more than my parents combined. And when you get to certain levels, I think that you can feel guilty. You can feel like, oh, I'm not worth this. I'm not worthy of this because like my parents who are amazing people, they don't even make this. And we hold ourselves back. We think that we're not worthy. And it's that energy and it's the mindset. And those things will truly hold us back. They'll truly hold us back. And what I've learned over these years is the more that I make, the more I can help, the more that I can give. And the more that if somebody needs like a quick situational change or something, like I've got it, like there's a travel issue, I can pay for that. That's a piece of cake. I got it. I can be flying my mom out here whenever I want. I can help her with her finances, with my grandma, with whoever I want. I can help. And the more that I have, the more that I could give. And so I've worked on that mindset a lot too. But I wanted to share that story because it's definitely, it was a aha for me on the power of our mindset and relationship with money and how things can really block us from making money. And I think that those things are really important for us to know. The other thing too is from a mindset perspective, I've talked about this on Crystal Uncorked in the past, but my mentor, Patricia, I was, when I was starting out, bigger bills are happening and I had to write bigger checks and I had to write this like $24,000 tax bill. And she said, celebrate writing big checks. And so, that's what I had to shift the mindset instead of being like, no, I do not want to get rid of this $24,000. Like, oh my gosh, imagine what I can do with this money. Instead, I was like, woo, I'm amazing. I am writing a check for $24,000. I'm celebrating this because if I'm paying this, it means I'm making even more. And then I would put it in the mailbox and say, there's more where that came from. Just abundant. There's more where that came from. And I will tell you, I started that about 8 years ago. And to this day, I had a $20,000 check that I wrote and I put that in the mailbox and I said out loud, there's more where that came from. I still use that. I still have to. There are those times where you're like, oh, geez, this is such a big bill. You got to celebrate it. You got to change the mindset. You've got to really have a good relationship with your money. And so I'm just checking my notes to see. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about for the mindset stuff. Now, the last thing I'll say, this is actually kind of funny. I also am a believer of like some of those affirmations. And one of my favorite ones around money is I receive money in expected and unexpected ways. And so if I was ever feeling kind of tight again, or sales just weren't happening, or maybe there wasn't launched as good as I wanted it to go, I repeat that when I drive or in the shower. I receive money in expected and unexpected ways. And so it is. You just allow it. You don't have to try to control it to happen. It is what it is. Well, I shared that affirmation or mantra, with my grandma. And then one day, like months later, I'm on the phone with my grandma and she's like, I have been using that mantra. And I'm like, oh, which one? Because I sent her a couple of cards and that was one of them. And she's like, I expect money in unexpected ways. And she said it without smiling. She was just like so serious. Like the mantra, I expect money in unexpected ways. And I start laughing because it's supposed to be, I receive money in expected and unexpected ways. But my grandma is, I expect money in unexpected ways. But what's hilarious about that is she straight up found an envelope of $850 at Goodwill. She went and she turned it into the police versus asking employees because the employees could take it. So she went to the Loveland PD, turned it in where she found it. She would call every couple of days. Did anybody claim it? Did anybody claim it? And what happens is if nobody claims it in 30 days, then you can come in and get it. And so nobody claimed it. She had this guilt because she was worried it was somebody's rent money and then they couldn't pay their bills. And I just kept telling her, like, Grandma, they could call though. Did anybody report this, or they could go into the Goodwill. And she told the employees, I found this, I reported it. If anybody comes in, they need to talk to the police. So her mantra is better than mine, I think. I expect money in unexpected ways. It works really well for her. Never did she think she was going to find an envelope of $850 cash. Pretty crazy. Okay, so let's move into, I'm going to share some of the stuff that I do. It's worked really well for me. I think everybody needs to find what they're comfortable doing. And I've been able to invest a little bit more because I am a business owner. Most people, I think, that listen to this, that listen have a business, but not everybody. And so obviously, if you are not a business owner, then doing things like company match, company retirement programs and still having a financial advisor and working with them. But I will say, first and foremost, for me, I have an incredible accountant who happens to be my cousin's wife. Janet has really helped me structure my business in a way that I can pay less taxes. And then she connected me to a good financial advisor where we set up a SEP. And there's regulations around that. I think you can contribute up to like 50 to 55,000 in your SEP. But I think some of those regulations, like you can't do it once you have employees, or there's a certain number of employees that you can't do it. But for the first couple of years, I was able to do that. And so I'll never forget when I first started my SEP, my cousin reached out during tax season and said, hey, you could either pay $20,000 in taxes, or you can pay $20,000 to yourself in your SEP and $8,000 in taxes. Whatever, I don't remember the exact amounts, but they were about that. So what that meant was I could pay $20,000 in taxes. I see none of that. Or I could pay $20,000 to me and $8,000 in taxes. That means I have to come up with $28,000 instead of $20,000. But that means that I am getting $20,000. The government's only getting $8,000. So did I have to celebrate writing a big check, a couple of big checks? I sure did. And I'm grateful I had the money, that extra $8,000 to do that. One reason I've been able to do that is I have two spreadsheets. So I've got a spreadsheet that tracks my business finances and a spreadsheet that tracks my personal finances. And on the business one, I budget out the income I think we're going to get, the expenses I think we're going to pay. Then I've got what we net. I close it out each month to see were we right on track with our budgeted goals? Where were we with our budgeted expenses? How much do we have left over? And I've just been good about keeping money in the account to make sure that I can pay for things if unexpected things come up. I like having multiple months of expenses in there. So I've just kind of been letting that grow. And then when it came around where I need this $28,000, thankfully I had that in the account to do that. So that's really set me up for success. So you have to have a great accountant. You have to have a great financial planner. Make sure that they know the different tax codes and rules and ways that you can be investing in yourself through your business. The other thing is that I close out my books every week. So all the expenses. I used to be doing income and expenses, but Pauline on my team now does all the income. She does sales. So she's categorizing all the sales every week. I categorize all the expenses. And so I'm looking at how much and what we spend every week. And this takes me like 15 minutes. This does not take a lot of time. I do it all through QuickBooks, and, I like that because I am in touch with what we're spending. I think it goes back to the relationship with money, where sometimes we're like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it. And people push it away. But if you don't have a good relationship where you're looking at how you're spending, then you don't know how much money you have left. You don't know what bills are coming. You don't know if you can afford things. And we'll just put stuff on credit cards when we can't even afford that. So you have to be excited about the fact that you get to close out your books. You get to, not you have to, you get to. You get to see where money's going. You get to see where money's coming in. I kind of miss doing the categorization of income because I loved, it was like so expansive. You're like, woo! Ooh, we had a 5-figure day. Ooh, I just love like seeing that money come in. It's so fun. And so I close that out every week, but then I also pay all my credit cards every week too. Now, if we had a couple of big expenses, maybe I have to chop those payments into over the course of 3 weeks or something like that. But I am pretty consistent on paying credit cards every single week, personal and business. I know not everybody can do that depending on what kind of business you're in, because you might have a lot more, like you put a lot for inventory down, or you bought a building, or you're not buying a building on a credit card, but you know what I mean? Like you might have a lot of expenses that you can't then pay for right away. But we will, we'll have $20,000, $30,000 weeks on the credit card. And those are big chunks. And so I'm very aware of how much is in my account, how much money I have coming in, how much money is going out. And I will say, I want to be so transparent. I'm not perfect at this. Are there weeks that go by that I'm a little out of touch with our net and expenses? There totally have been. When we're really busy, if I'm traveling a lot, there's a lot going on personally, then there could be a few weeks where I'm falling a little bit behind. But I will always pay the credit card every week. And I will always close out every week too. So I like being in touch. It's about knowing. You have to know your numbers. You have to have this information. Do not brush it aside. If you have bills and you're not even sure how far in debt you are, I've heard this from a lot of people on like talk shows where they don't even know how far in debt they are. They don't know the number. And for me, I just can't even imagine, like, if you don't know the number, then how do you know how much you need to make to get yourself out of the hole? Like, don't you want to know that number? So then you can be like focused on, okay, this is how much I need to make. How am I going to get there? And then do what you need to do. But if we don't have any clue, you're never going to get out of debt, in my opinion. You have to have a good relationship and know that information. Also, because I have a business and we process and we spend a lot of money, I feel like especially lately, we're just in growth mode. I'm very strategic on the cards that I use. I've done a lot of research and I've chosen to use travel cards. So personally, I've got a Delta credit card. And then for the business, I use Bonvoy through Marriott. And so I'm getting all those travel points. For the past, 5, 6 vacations I've personally taken, I have not paid for my flights, Dustin's flights, and our hotel. It's all been free because the business and personally, I'm charging those things, but I pay them right off and I'm getting these great points. And then also I'll stay at Marriott's. So that helps me get free stuff too and rack up all my points. And then I try to fly Delta as much as I can, but Southwest just has a lot of better options. So loyalty is really important. And look at those credit cards to see, what's important to you. For me, it's travel. We love traveling. So I don't want cash back because I'm going to travel, and how I've calculated everything and with my stays, I make more money through what I would spend traveling versus just doing it on points. So find what's right for you. It's worth doing a little research, get the right credit cards, but make sure that you're paying those off. I also, whenever I'm buying stuff like software, services, if there's an opportunity for me to pay for something in full, like pay for the whole year versus monthly, if I can save and get discounts for paying in full, I'll do that. So for example, like our email service provider, Entreport, it's like $1,290 for a year, $1,290 for a year. Otherwise, it was like $130 a month. Well, I got 2 months for free because I was able to pay in full. So I put that on the credit card, pay it off the next week. Boom, it's paid for. And we got 2 months for free. So anywhere that I can get some of those savings, I always do that option. And then also, going back to your accountant and a good financial planner, my accountant, I'll ask them like, hey, what kinds of things are going on? Like, what can I say? How can I save on taxes? And I check in. I don't rely on them to tell me stuff. I will check in every quarter and ask like, hey, is there anything I need to know? Is there anything I need to do? One year I did this. Actually, for the past 2 years, I did this. And there was a pass-through tax. I don't honestly even know what that means, but they were like, if you pay this amount, then you'll basically get that amount back on your personal taxes. So it was a pass-through tax that I was able to have a higher return personally. So that was great. And then it also lowered some of my tax responsibility. I also do a profit share through ADP. So ADP runs our payroll, and they have this program where you can decide. You don't have to do this every single year, but if the company has had a profit, then you can decide how much money of that profit you want to give back to your team, and that the people who get the profit, they're getting it through their retirement fund. So you're giving the money into depositing that into their retirement account, so they're not getting cash. And anybody that's enrolled in your retirement program gets a percentage of that. So you're not choosing, it's anybody in the program is going to get money, and how much they get depends on the percentage of how much they all make. So, if you've got 3 employees, it's you and 3 employees, and you make the most. And then maybe you've got your manager and they make the second most, and then 2 associates and they make less. Well, you're going to get majority of the pie. Then the manager will get more, and then the 2 people will get a smaller fraction. That's how it all works out. Now, I kind of wonder if employees like this, because I feel like the employees, they want the cash. They like the cash bonuses. And I get that. You don't get to use this money. You're kind of like, oh, thanks for a couple of $1,000s that I can't do anything with. But I think this is huge for your employees. If they think about the future, it just sits in there. This is free money. And if it's invested into the stock market, it should be making money and it's growing. And if you're with the company every year and then you're making more money, so you get more of the profit share. I mean, this is a great way to build your wealth as an employee. And then as an owner, whatever I'm contributing, that's less out of my net that I'm paying taxes on. So I have a lower tax bill. I personally am contributing to myself. Well, the business is contributing to my personal. So I'm getting money there, and then I'm giving money to my team. And so again, it's a similar situation where I might owe $30K in taxes, or I can give $24K to me and my team and pay $10K in taxes. Well, 30 versus 34, if I'm remembering my math here, I much rather give me and my team the money than the government. And it might cost me a couple extra $1,000, maybe $8,000 extra dollars, but I much rather do that. I'm investing in myself. I'm investing in my people. And I personally think that's a huge perk as an employee too. And so I think it's important, if you are an employee listening to this, ask your company. They should share these things with you when you sign on. If they do profit shares and the retirement match and how much. And then you also need to make sure that if you're contributing to your own retirement account, that it is invested in the market. You could have it come out of your check, but you're not actually allocating it into any kind of fund. And so it's just sitting in there, not making any money. So again, don't close your eyes. Don't close your ears. You need to know this information. Where is it invested? Is it high risk, middle, low risk? Talk to a financial advisor to get the advice on where you should be. I'm pretty high risk and pretty tech, because I believe in technology. I am younger, so I've got more time. So I can, if the market is volatile, I can stay in longer. But usually when you're more risky and aggressive, you can make more over time too. So, and then I have both a 401k and a Roth IRA. Your Roth IRA, you're going to pay taxes on that before it goes in. And then your 401k, it's pre-tax, you defer it. You're going to pay the tax when you withdraw it later. Either way, you got to pay taxes on this money. My financial advisor was looking at how much I'm contributing and said, hey, you've got a lot of money stored away under the 401k. You're going to have to pay taxes on that later. Let's switch to the Roth. Let's pay taxes now. So then later you can take some of that money out and you already paid the taxes, versus taking money out and gosh, now I have to pay all these taxes. So it's a good balance. Again, the importance of having a good financial advisor. But again, talk to your own person. You might have different goals. You might think differently on finances and what you want to do. The most important thing here is that you have somebody and you're dealing with this and you have a good relationship with it. And so I would just say that, what was eye-opening talking to these ladies at my table, they were scared to invest the money. because they didn't know where it needed to go and how to do it. And it's like, what, the stock market, and what do I need to be in? This is where it comes into having a good accountant and a good financial advisor. And if you talk to a financial advisor and you just feel like they're trying to sell you and they're not asking your goals and they're not educating you, because I went in, I'm like, I feel like I don't know anything. I love money. I know this is important, but there's so much I don't know. So I'm going to need you to break this down like I'm a fourth grader. And that's exactly what my first financial planner did. He drew out buckets. He's like, this is what I teach my kids. This is what you should do. This is why, this is that. And then I'm asking questions. Sometimes I would go home and research and then come back. And so you got to get a good relationship with them. They need to be prompt. They need to educate. They need to be supportive. They need to understand your goals. Something else I forgot, two other things I forgot that I also do from an investment standpoint. I invest in real estate. Dustin and I like to try to find a model home that the developer rents back from us, that the builder rents back from us. So, we cash flow. And then when that lease is up, we sell it. We've done that with 2 models. It's been a great model for us. And then I also have a universal life insurance policy. Ask your financial advisor about this. They seem really cool. Like in a way, I feel like it's too good to be true, but you contribute to it and over time it's growing. And then when you want, like you can get to a certain point, it has to sit in there for a certain point, like maybe 5 years, 10 years, 15, maybe. I'm not exactly sure how many years. I think that some of them vary on the years, but you could start taking that money out and you're taking out your death benefits. So for Dustin and I, we don't have kids. And we don't plan on having kids. So I can have this universal life insurance policy and the policy could be for $250,000 plus I'm contributing to it and it's growing at about 10%, which is a good return in my opinion. So as that's growing and I'm contributing and I've got that 250 death benefit, I can start pulling from my death benefit. And then maybe I don't have much left when I die, but I don't have any, hopefully I've paid off all my things and, nobody's getting an inheritance, but that's an option too, that I think is a great way. There's some cool stuff you could do with that I'm still learning about, but, something for you to look into. So it can be scary. We feel that lack, but one thing I just want to kind of close with and remind you of is you're setting yourself up for the future. And that can be really hard to think about today. We want the money today. But when you change your habits and you set these things up automatic as much as it can be out of sight, out of mind, and just working in the background for you, and you're checking in with them quarterly, you will get used to it. And you don't even realize that this is happening. You work on your mindset, clear any blockages, get really clear on your goals, know your numbers, see how you're spending, have a healthy relationship. And there's a very good chance you're going to start making more money. So you don't even feel the fact that you're contributing. Then we're making more money. We're talking to our financial advisor saying, hey, I'm making more money. Where should it go? What should I do? And, I just feel like the more I give and the more I invest, the more I get. And I'm such a believer of that too. So I really encourage being expansive and abundant and having a good relationship. And I know I'm very aware that somebody could be listening to this being like pissed at me because they're in a tough situation. Money is stressful and it can be so hard. And everybody has different circumstances, life circumstances and situations. And I'm very, very, very aware of that. This whole episode, the goal is really to help plant some seeds from how to have a good relationship and how to view it and encouragement to have a good relationship, some ideas on how you can invest and some encouragement to invest. I think it's just really important for us to do that, set ourselves up for us to know our finances and especially as women, for us to not count on the man who does it all for us and we are so unaware and we're scared of contributing any of our money. We really have to stick up for ourselves and invest in ourselves and we are worthy of it. Know that you are. So a good starting point, get a good accountant, get a good financial planner, start working on that mindset and you can start learning. There's a lot of resources out there to learn. Ask good questions. All right. I hope you found this episode helpful. And if you have any questions for me, I'm an open book. I'm always happy to help. So let me know and I'll see you on the next See You. Bye.